Workato. Mr. Ken,
Thank you.
before you start off, there's a small question we would love for you to answer. So are you all set firstly?
Sorry, was that?
There's a small question we
Yep.
would want you to answer before you start with your session. So are you all set? This is,
sure.
ladies and gentlemen, absolutely impromptu.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Ken, from your bio, right? We were Team 𝐿𝐥𝐿𝐲, all of us were going through your bio and your work, and we understand that you are a technology leader and amazingly, simultaneously also a people leader. So our question to you is, what would you say is easier to work with? Is it technology or people?
Oh, I would have to say technology. I think everybody would agree with me. Although I do say that, working with people is enjoyable. And I think that's definitely part of, what I really like about my role. But, technology is very predictable. So
Exactly. People are so unpredictable. I completely understand. And this is a live example of how unpredictable people are. I just threw in a question. We just threw in a question at you. Fantastic answer, Mr. Ken. Spoken like a true technology leader. I expected this answer for sure. Fantastic. Stage is all yours, Mr. Ken.
Thank you so much. Sure. Thank you so much. And I would like to extend a welcome to everyone as well. Thank you for being here, and hope everyone's doing well and safe. In the next 20 minutes also, I will be sharing how we at Vocado has helped some of our customers automate processes right beyond the factory floor. And Nikita, as you kind of mentioned, I've been with Vocado for quite a while. I lead the solution consulting team here at Vocado, and spent roughly about 19 years in the space of automation and integration. Feel free to look up me at LinkedIn, for further conversations as well. Today's session, I'll basically revisit, what automation is in the automation in manufacturing encompasses of. But more importantly, right, the bulk of the conversation today is really around how Vocado has helped our customers automate processes beyond the factory floor, as I mentioned earlier. And lastly, I really want to share a couple of examples of how our customers have actually used our platform, right, to automate these processes of theirs. And to begin, right, I want to use this analyst report from BCG. Right, they basically laid out 9 pillars of the Industry 4.0 movement. And I think while we've seen a lot of conversations around the use of leading edge robotic automations in manufacturing, that's undeniable, something that is important and how the technology is shifting in the space of manufacturing. But one of the key pillars, right, that BCG still brings up, is the idea around, how manufacturing organizations need to look at horizontal and vertical integration as well. And one of the key things that they found is that most of the IT systems today in this organization remains largely unintegrated, right? And things like customers, suppliers, and the companies themselves are not very, closely linked as best as they can. Now, what do they really mean by this, right? Now, let's take a deeper look. So as you can see from the infographic here, right, horizontal integration is where you link up all the, business systems, right, that cuts across the whole value network. And this starts all the way from your suppliers, to your organization, and then to your customers, right? So as if you can get, all this well integrated, you can imagine from an operational perspective how, good that could be, right? And vertical integration really looks at your internal business processes, all the way from the factory floor up to the corporate management level. And again, like I mentioned, if you get this right, the access to all the operational data that you have, combining with upstream, downstream data, can really provide you with real-time intelligence. And this really allows you to make much better decisions as you, go through the operations of your organization. And in some cases, and something that we find with a lot of our customers, and this is where a lot of their challenges comes from, right, is that data that you need also actually belongs to organization outside of the boundaries of the manufacturing plant, right? And again, this clearly underscores the importance of having a really good strategy around horizontal and vertical integration. So that's really where we're coming from, right? And it's at how we help our customers. Now, if we all agree that automation beyond the factory floor is equally important, now what are then the business processes that can be automated? We at Vocado here, with our engagement with thousands of our customers, I think we can help you answer that question. On the screen here, you can see some of the most commonly seen processes that and automation that our customers have implemented. And this really cuts across all different business units. In fact, I couldn't have put all of them here, but again, some of the key highlights here includes automations and processes from, say, the revenue operations, right? Things like how do you manage the customer renewals or churns, or customer satisfaction. How about case management, right? So these are some of the common things that we see our customers automate. And what about HR department as well? There's a lot of processes there today, often manual, which is ripe for automation, right? Because people operations today is really, really key to driving the success in your organization. And I think something that we've seen in the past couple of years due to the COVID pandemic is that there's this whole need to shift. And I think from a manufacturing perspective, you can't really deal with hybrid work. A lot of people still actually need to work in the factory floor. But the management of safety, right? The management of who's able to come in and work, and the scheduling challenges that comes behind that. These are again a lot of the processes that we've seen our customers very quickly needed to pivot and automate in order to operate well within the time of challenging times as well. And and there's many more, right? Finance, processes like payroll, processes like accounts receivable, quote to cash. I think these are some of the processes I'm sure you can imagine, right? It's absolutely automatable. And should be something that you do, because like I mentioned just now, right? This cuts across the horizontal view and the integration between all your stakeholders as well, right? So there's a lot that you can actually automate. And in fact, if you do this well, we've seen great successes from our customers in terms of how they increase the operational efficiencies and at the same time reduce the operational costs in the organization. All right, so how does Vocado help, right? I think what's interesting here with Vocado, right, is if you look at across all the business processes that I've just shared, right, all these different business units within your organization, one thing that you very quickly find is there's a wide range of applications and data sources that you actually need to hook together for that automation to work, to actually work, right? Because just automating the process without being able to access the data is not going to work. So what Vocado offers is essentially one of the industry-only unified integration-led automation platform, which provides you a low-code, no-code capability to build these automations, for you to basically, automate your process, right? So, and I'll show you some of these examples in a bit. It's designed from ground up to really support, the needs of both IT and business users as well. And I think one of the things we've seen in, and have found high in demand is many organizations really requires a less technical tool, which their business users can actually pick up and start to, drive some of this automation as well. Because, as we know, the IT organization has a limited capacity and trying to serve the wider organization can be challenging at times. All right, so when we kind of look also at, the automation and integration tech stack, right? As I mentioned earlier, right? There's many different parts and pieces within the IT landscape, which you need to actually integrate together. And this comes from, data sources, multiple data sources, whether that's legacy database running within your data centers, or perhaps even some, modern cloud data warehouses like Snowflake, right? There's a lot of operational data that actually goes up there, data coming from your IoT devices, right? How do you make sense of this from a operational perspective? There's of course a lot of applications that you use, right? SAP being one of the core applications I often see in manufacturing customers. They oftentimes ask, like, there's a lot of great processes and data that's already sitting in SAP, but for the HR department, they may be using Workday for employee, managing the employees. How do they reconcile, right, processes that needs to cut across these applications? And that's really where Vocado comes in, right? We put all these applications, we provide integration capabilities to all the data and applications that you have. And that really then drives the ability to very easily automate that process across all these business processes. And our approach is fairly unique as well, right? Because remember, I did mention earlier that a lot of the organizations that we work with today, they actually demand a much easier approach to integration. Now, integration, I spent about 19 years in this space. It has never been easy, right? 19 years and still figuring out, what's the solution for integration. I think at Vocado, we have, sort of the answer. It is something that we've built ground up to really drive the ability for a wider set of skills across the organization to be able to pick up and build some of these automations. Now, the approach here that is something we call a recipe, right? Just like a cookbook recipe, a recipe is easy to read, a recipe is easy to follow, and easy to build as well, right? If you are a chef. And from a Vocado point of view, these recipes are essentially the building blocks for your automation, right? It's the representation of the process or the workflow that will be automated within our platform. What systems it triggers and the actions that happens in subsequent to the triggering event. That essentially is the steps that you use, that will like construct, right, and build within the recipe, which eventually our platform automates. We've built it to be really easy to use, highly intuitive for the business users. But at the same time, there is power, right, behind the simplicity, which allows us to really handle complex business process flows as well. And last but not least is something that's really secure. We make sure, all the platform handles all, aspects of security, because if you are to drive, your critical operations and processes across our platform, it is something that you need to be able to trust, right? So really, right, it's a very simple approach. In fact, notice that I've not even mentioned what that recipe actually does. I'm sure while you're reading the screen, you can yourself understand, right, what the diagram, right, on the left-hand side of the screen is actually describing. So that's really, how easy it is to build and automate on the Vocado platform. Now, why is our platform so popular today, right? The first one is, of course, as I mentioned, integrating to multiple applications is really, really hard. And we provide out of the box about 1,000 connectors to many different applications that you can find out in the market, right? So be it, like I mentioned, SAP or Microsoft Dynamics, to Slack for your collaboration platform, or even Microsoft Teams, to Concur as a or Coupa as a procurement platform, many different applications, right? We can actually integrate that really easy because we provide the connectors for you. As you can see as well, I've talked about how easy it is to construct the automation workflow. It is what you see is what you get type of development. Everything's graphical and everything's very intuitive in a click and configure approach, right? No coding required. But last but not least is also something that is very interesting. We provide, or rather our community, right, of Vocado builders actually continues to contribute back to our community library as well. It's a very thriving one. We've got, hundreds and hundreds of additional connectors that our community builds. And likewise, all the different recipes that they built, they actually share back to our community library. So again, you will never often find yourself building from scratch, right, with the Vocado platform. Now, I want to share very quickly as well. I did mention earlier that there is a lot of power that sits behind the platform when you need it. So, this really just illustrates that, whatever type of automation challenges that you have, we can actually solve it, right? So it doesn't matter whether your data source comes from a modern application with APIs or a legacy application, which only, you can access the database for the data, we can connect to them, right? So no problems there. In fact, even if the only thing you have from a data point of view is the file, a CSV file, we can still connect that. So again, like I mentioned, right, we support across, legacy, modern application integration. At the end of the day, everything that you need to do from an automation point of view, from the process point of view, we can support that. And what I want to do today, right, perhaps is, to use one example process as a way to illustrate this. Take, for example, invoice processing, right? So a customer of ours actually do something very similar. Their invoices comes through an email. Then what the sales team typically needs to do, or the finance team actually needs to do, is go to the CRM and start updating or retrieving customer information, because they need to kind of make sure that it's the right orders that's matching the purchase order, for example. There are additional information perhaps that they need to go out and get from other websites. An example here is ACRA, and the need to process the documents, for example. Then finally, they actually need to go to the ERP system. So again, manually, in the manual process, someone actually logs into SAP, search for the opportunity details, search for the parts of the purchase order, and then kind of creates the fulfillment side of things, right? And then lastly, there's the need to have someone approve this order. So they usually send an email to the respective managers to put in an approval, and then someone picks up the email again, and then continues on that process, right? So as you can see, the process typically can be very, very manual. Now, when Vocado comes into play, everything from a system point of view is taken care of, right? So all the bits where you see the Vocado logo, we actually handles all that integration and automation directly for you. Now, I know a lot of our customers today also are already using some RPA solutions for document passing, and we can coexist, right? We can actually work with technologies like RPA to actually be part of that chain of automation as well. So, so in this example here, the only time a human actually need to be part of that chain is the approval. And that's really because for the customer, they actually need the person to approve and review the order, right? Now you can also imagine if you have a machine learning model, right, that does, perhaps, some AI approach to approving your orders, we can actually hook into that ML API, right, and just drive this whole chain completely automated, right? So that's some of the ways we have actually helped our customers automate a simple process like this. How does it look like, right? Again, as you can see, building that on the Vocado platform is simply describing exactly that whole step as I've talked about, right? So it's really dragging and dropping all the connectors to the various application and describing what to do with it, right? So it's really intuitive. In fact, a lot of times we find business users building this themselves or sitting together with IT, right, where they have a common system or platform, right, that business can describe what they need from a process automation point of view, right, and then IT can complete that implementation. And these are done in matter of days and not months. So that's really where the Vocado platform really steps up and help accelerate the automation journey with a lot of our customers. Why do they choose Vocado? As I mentioned earlier, right, we allow a lot of our customers to build a lot faster, right? And because they are able to build faster, they can actually do more as well. There's a lot of smarts that goes behind the platform. We have recommendation engines within the Vocado platform to identify, which is the best component to use, right? Which is the right data mapping, data, right, for you to get your information from system to system. So there's a lot of things there, right, that we help in building up this automation. The second one, second big point is more builders. So low code and no code is a big movement today in large organizations, especially organizations that does not have a very big engineering or IT teams. They really need a lot more the builders or a lot more automators, right, within the organization to drive these initiatives. And the Vocado platform really allows them to do it with effectiveness, right, without any, crutch as well, because we provide deep integration capabilities along with our tool. And lastly, I said, it is an enterprise class solution as well. But I think most importantly, don't take my word for it. You can easily go to some of the analyst reports out there. We consistently have ranked in the top leaders in the Magic Quadrant from Gartner, but as well as a lot of the customer reviews, right, of the Vocado platform. So as you can see, the voice of the customer report from Gartner, ranks us pretty high in terms of the usability of the platform. Now, I want to share a couple of customer stories, right? Firstly, we have customers across the region, but more importantly, zooming down to manufacturing, we have again many customers that we work with very, very closely, including things customers like Broadcom, Logitech, etc. And I want to bring you two very quick examples, right? The first one here is Broadcom, right? Broadcom uses Vocado across their enterprise, but primarily zooming down to specifically around HR. They do a lot of things around onboarding, as well as offboarding, right? Urgent offboarding. I think sometimes these are very important compliance challenges that most organizations have. And again, right, we help them do this, and they build a lot of these initiatives in matter of weeks as well. And lastly, I just want to quick share as well. It's not just HR departments that we help our manufacturing customers, but around the space of finance as well. So Biopack in Australia, uses us to help streamline their invoice processing solutions. So again, there are many areas that we can help our customers in the manufacturing space. And with that, I thank you for your time. Hopefully, this session has been very, very helpful. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to me, right, if you have more questions.
Fantastic presentation, Mr. Ken. A big round of applause. And I would request, and we at 𝐿𝐥𝐵 would request for you to clap for yourselves along with us. Lovely. And Mr. Ken, you seem to have started a very big conversation, a very long conversation in the comment box. Yep. So we have Nandini, who writes in, without people, technology can't be realized, and without technology, people will struggle. Anyway, thanks, Mr. Ken. That was the point. Thank you so much, Nandini. We've got Renee, Daphne, who writes in, perfectly said, Ken and Nandini, Cassie, Rosalina Leon, who writes in, excited to hear about automating beyond the manufacturing floor. Agreed. This was for Nandini. Nandini also writes, automation is technically doable provided the process and the whole value chain are documented well, plotted with the existing integration and data in and out point. Wow. Nandini seems extremely detail-oriented, just like her answer. And Cassie writes it, we'd love to answer any questions. Okay, all right. Dhani has a question for you. Dhani A writes in, did Workato fulfill HIPAA rules, HIPAA rules, or can we use it on-premise?
Short answer is yes, we do comply to HIPAA and some of the known cloud security certification like SOC 2, etc. We are a platform that is running off the cloud, so we are cloud first, but we do integrate with on-premise applications. So we do support integration to that as well. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ken, for answering Dhani's question. And thank you so much, Dhani, for reaching out and voicing your thoughts and your question. We've got Nandini again, who writes in, what is the integration technology, API, SFTP, MFT, or whatever is it?
We support across all actually. So we, primarily API, right? Most applications provides those APIs, but we do support, files as well, SFTP, shared file folders as well, right? So yeah, basically anything you need, we can support.
Wow. I mean, you say it, we do it.
It is true.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ken. What a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for your time.